Hey guys, it's Jeff Burrows, president of Expert Chemical and Supply. Welcome to another episode of the Masters of Clean podcast. Today we have on the show Dino Luliano, Chief Revenue Officer of Planned Companies. We're going to talk about why all cleaning companies should have a Chief Revenue Officer. Now let's do this. Hey guys, welcome to the show. Dino, thanks for being on.
Hey Jeff, great to be here. Thank you.
So, wanted to talk to you a little bit about your story and how you got into the cleaning industry. If you could share a little bit about how you came to the position where you're at right now.
Absolutely. So, very proud to be a part of a company, Planned Companies, headquartered in Parsippany, New Jersey. Our CEO, Rob Francis, is 4 generations in this business. His great-great-grandfather started the company, started as window cleaners, and then moved into what we know as janitorial services today. So 122 years. So you could say our CEO was born into the industry, right? And
that's amazing.
And continues to run a great business today. Me personally, came into Planned 18 years ago. My background's in law enforcement. I'm a former Marine and a police officer and a bodyguard. And my primary purpose when Rob Francis, who's our CEO, first started speaking is we thought it'd be great to add on more ancillary products to just our janitorial services. And what was happening is a lot of the clients that we were doing janitorial work for, they were struggling with trying to find great companies like ours to do the other services, security, front desk, maintenance. These were areas they were struggling to find companies to do it. So Rob's vision, his family vision was gosh, if we could do it, if we could bring in the experts that know these other ancillary businesses, imagine how we could thrive and continue to please our existing client base. I come in 18 years ago, we grow our security, we grow our lifestyle divisions, and I spent most of my time at Planned in operations. So for 14 of my 18 years, I was the executive vice president of operations for our lifestyle and our security division. Well, at the vision of our CEO about 4 years ago, we wanted to grow the company. We wanted to take it to another level. I had a lot of experience doing sales, and now I had all this operation experience at Planned, understanding the products. We thought it would make more sense if my primary focus was growing the company, and we had other folks in our organization who certainly knew how to operate. So 4 years ago, I took on this Chief Revenue Officer role, which I never had heard of it. But again, I think we created a role based on the need, not the other way around. And I think what was important about that is we knew to take it to the next level, we needed to focus. We needed to focus on growth. Growth was happening at Planned for many years. We were very happy about growing, but we just thought if we spent more time focusing on it and having marketing and getting our name out there more, we knew it would have a huge effect on the company, and it has. We've grown amazing over the last 4 years, more than we've ever done in the history of our company. And I think it's because of that focus.
Talk a little bit about how many people, to give the listeners an idea how large scale Planned Companies is and how many cities and responsibilities you have.
I appreciate that. Yes. So Planned Companies has about 4,500 associates today. Very proud. Wow. And we range from the highest north on the East Coast now I'm going to talk. So it's Boston down to Florida, where I sit, luckily now, Jeff, as you can see here in the background. And on the West Coast,
trees.
Yeah, on the West Coast, we are in the San Francisco Bay Area. So, great story there, 3,000 miles away. We had an incredible client who loved our services on the East, who couldn't quite find someone to do the same thing out there. Actually, it was a big enough opportunity for us to set up camp out there and mirror, what we do in this market. So from Boston to Florida on the east, about 4,500 and growing. So very happy to have those. That's the backbone of our company. Are the people that we hire, and we love the culture. I think makes a lot of difference for why people want to be on the plant.
And talk about kind of the marketing and operations side that you oversee, how you grow and continue as a 4,500 person operation, how you continue to oversee and manage those, and I'm sure you have other people that report to you. How does that function? And I'm sure you're doing a lot of traveling, that balance work life.
Sure. Yeah, well, I planned, fortunately, when the time came for me to take over this role, we had someone who was very versatile at operations, and we appointed a chief operating officer. So a lot of my obligations towards operations went to him, and Astrid Garana he's our chief operating officer. And it's always going to be a back and forth, because I'll never be out of operations.
Sure.
I'll always have something to say or some input, or I still do trainings today. If you go to our website, which I'll talk about later, but we have videos out there on active shooter, on civil unrest, and several other things that aren't necessarily a sales and growing person would do, right? So I definitely am very involved with the training still. But I think the focus for me now, and what I would say to maybe a young company out there starting out, when you have to have some focus on growth, so we're very fortunate. A lot of our growth through the years has been through word of mouth, but we found that we were able to capture a whole new audience and a whole different level of people by casting wider nets, whether it's through social media or through putting on webinars or through other marketing campaigns, so that people could get to know who we are. And sometimes they're not even quite sure what we do. And one of the things I found out early on in my new role, so many of our clients didn't know we did the other services. So, we would have a group of clients who thought we were a janitorial company only. Then we'd have a group of clients who thought we only did security. And even all these years later, Jeff, it's still trying to remind them,
yes,
hey, I pass your front desk every day. I see it. We clean it. You love it. Why not, the other opportunities? So it was educating the public about us, which I love doing, right? So it's an honor to be able to talk about the company that I had such a big part of for 18 years. It's a fun job. It's a rewarding job when people get it. Operations, it's, as a lot of your viewers would know, it's not always rewarding, right? People only call you in operations when they got something negative happening, or it's reaction to they rarely call it. I just want to say you're doing such a great job today. I thought I'd call. No, right? But in sales and in growth, it's immediately rewarding when you win a new contract, or you've engaged with somebody new, or you got to tell somebody new about your company, like I'm doing with you today, Jeff. So it's an honor to do this.
Oh, that's awesome. Talk a little bit about why you should become an integrated service provider. There's a lot of just cleaning companies out there that maybe they haven't thought about getting into security or building maintenance, and why, tell if you could share the story about the gum wrapper on the floor with the security guard. And I thought that was such a unique story, and why people might want to look at becoming more of a full service provider.
Yeah, I think it's great. Thank you, Jeff. And so I think because we bring so many building services to a building, and when we bring you our bundle of services, so the advantage of having that is when everyone's rowing the same way. When you have the security team, who's the same company as the janitorial team, who's the same company as your building super, your maintenance team, and your front desk, they care about the success of all the groups in your building. And to the wrapper thing,
right?
In a building that maybe, and we'd seen this in buildings where we're not all together, if a security officer or front desk person saw the wrapper on the floor at a lobby and it's not his company, the attitude is typically, that's not my job. And you hear that, and I'm like, but you're in this building, you should care. And sometimes it's actually they want to make the other company not look good. When it's all the same company, we all want to make each other look good. So that security guard's going to pick up that wrapper, toss it in the garbage. Or if he sees something that's unkempt or undone, or the other way around, we have janitors who will say, you're supposed to have a tie on right now. You're supposed to have your uniform on at the front desk. It's more eyes and more people looking out for each other, and therefore the success of the building.
Right. I think that a lot of people or smaller janitorial companies are looking to grow. And obviously they might not have the funding for a chief revenue officer, but considering some of these other lines is a good or easy way to try and grow within that customer. Obviously you can grow within, offer more services to your existing customer, or go after new business. And a lot of times it's easier to offer more services to your existing clientele.
I think so too. And Jeff, I think understanding and to those smaller people you're talking to starting out, again, I this role became after the fact, right? So after we already knew, we had all those ancillary products in place already. We were already doing all of those services, and we knew because we had gotten to a certain level that if we didn't do this, we'd be missing out. So again, the role, the title, not so important, right? I've never cared about titles in my career. I always say to RCO, I don't care what you call me. I just know what I think I can bring and what we as Plan should be bringing to the table. And it's made a difference. So I would say to those companies, maybe you're not looking for a chief revenue officer at this point, but maybe you just need to focus more on sales and marketing and whatever you call it. But whoever in your organization is good at it, because I think that's what we identified is that, we had someone who could do this. We didn't have to go shopping for that person.
Right.
So then the title just came with it because it just made sense. But I think that if I was talking to a smaller company looking to do, that's how we did it. We knew when there was a need, we identified now's the time, and then we just put the person to it.
Let's talk a little bit about your background and coming from the Marines and having a competitive spirit and security background. How important was that to your success today, and what kind of tactics, strategies did you take away? Anything from the Marines that you apply to a daily basis, your job, or?
100%. The Marines, I think, made a good portion of the man I am today, and my leadership. I think I've never found a better group of leaders than the men who serve our country and the people who were leading in the Marine Corps. What's interesting about the Marine Corps or the service and the way they teach leadership is you do the job before you get it, right? So they have a rank structure, and you don't get to skip any ranks along the way, right? So a lot of your leadership is by doing. And I think that's how I conduct my leadership today. I would never ask anybody to do something I wouldn't do who works for me. I would never try to teach somebody something that I didn't know. And I think that that's what leadership in the Marine Corps did. And then discipline. There's no more disciplined humans, as far as I'm concerned, in the world than the United States Marine. And it taught me how to be disciplined, to wake up with an agenda, to make sure I accomplish the mission, as we would say in the Marine Corps, and not let barriers get in the way. I find we could sit here and talk about excuses of why not to do something all day long, right? I didn't do that because of this, or I love pushing down walls. When somebody tells me I can't do something or it shouldn't, it won't be able to be done, I love getting it done and showing that we're able to push through that. So I think that's what the Marine discipline and leadership, I think, were the two traits that I use every single day in my current role.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that to be a leader, obviously, you have to have different things. And part of growing up and maturity and leadership, I think you can see some of those skill sets, but love to find out, you know, with the next generation or for younger leaders out there, what sort of skill sets or things do you see in certain people where you can tell that they're going to be successful or, you know, have the ability to move up with the organization?
I think desire. You could tell when you're speaking to some of the new folks coming in, if they really want it. They ask more questions. They want to learn the business. You know, that thing behind just getting through this moment. So I
Right.
feel when someone, Dino, it's great. I don't just want to know what tool to buy or why we do this thing. What's behind it? Like, so what's the company objective? What are we saying to a client when we put out this marketing piece? What are we saying to a prospect when we want them to know X? So it's, for me, it's all selling, right? So I sell internally, externally, everywhere to get people to selling is understanding. And in the internal salesperson, our next generation that you're talking about, if I can show them and sell them planned, then they're going to want to be the next generation of planned. And I think that's when I see somebody with that spark. And then you could also see the ones that are just like, this is what I'm doing today.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Going through
I
the
have to do
motions.
it. Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Going through the motions. What time is lunch? When do we
Yeah.
get out of here? So that I think I'm a pretty good reader of people that way. And I think it's part of leadership too, when you could tell what you're working with. And we got to kind of, as leaders, be chameleons, right? So if
Right.
the person I'm working with right now is doesn't like to speak, or you have to work to their level. And I think they don't have to come up to meet you or sideways to
Right.
meet you. You got to
Right.
go and lead at the level they're at and try to take them to another level.
I like that because obviously I think, younger generations or people, everyone responds different. So when you come to their level, they don't feel like you're talking down to them.
That's
You're
right.
working together as a team. So
That's important.
I really like that. Yes.
They're already intimidated, right? So we have all these fancy titles, and no different when I was in the Marines and the general walked in the room, right? There's already that
Right.
intimidation
Yes.
just by the title that you hold. If you add more of that intimidation by speaking over them, or it just becomes a very uncomfortable place.
Yes. Let's talk a little bit about COVID-19, the culture, and how you guys reacted. Did you guys set up a fund? Talk a little bit about, the people and what Planned is about and how they kind of responded to that situation.
Yeah, so COVID took us all by shock. I mean, I think the
Sure.
whole country, and we reacted quickly. From a sales and marketing perspective, we started doing weekly webinars,
Okay.
to help educate our client base and prospects. Everyone was invited, everyone was allowed to come out, and we didn't just talk about what we could do for them. We brought other vendor people, friends of the industry, to talk about what they did. So we had landscapers, we had lawyers, there was a lot of legal things going on. We had
Wow.
pool experts. So it wasn't just, hey, this is what Planned can do for you. We brought together the best in class companies
Great.
to put on these weekly webinars, and people were loving it. And for our associates, we had to make sure that they were comfortable. These were people that had to get up and go to work every day. So we had to provide the right PPE. We did set
Right.
up funds for people who were having issues at home, people who maybe had to be out of work or had to quarantine for a while. We made sure they were all taken care of. Special trainings with our staff to make sure they understood all the COVID things that we were learning from the CDC, what they needed to be prepared of, how they needed to make our clients feel when they were at their properties. Whole bunch of training. And then, of course, electrostatic spraying was huge, and
Yes.
all that. But we were very fortunate. We didn't have to lose associates.
That's great.
We moved some folks around. We did what we had to do, but we weren't one of those companies that had to call people and say, hey, sorry, we'll let you know what happens after COVID. No, we were necessary during COVID. We were an elite force that had to go to work, and people needed in their buildings. Our commercial end, the commercial buildings that we service maybe took a little bit of a hit, but we were growing in so many other areas that we just relocated folks and shifted them. So very proud of that. There was
That's
nothing
great.
more important to our executive team when this all happened than to make sure that we took care of our people. And I think we did that.
And talk a little bit about communication and how how do you message or deal with so many clients, so many sites, personnel. I know communication's key, so I'd love to hear a little bit about how you have those conversations, either with new customers or existing. And
Yeah, Jeff, great question. So two-step there, right? So internal communications I'll start with, because I think it's crucial to any business's success, is communicating with your own staff. Your own people have to hear from their company. That's where the pride comes from, right? That's where the culture of an organization comes from. If you hire me, put me out in some island somewhere and never talk to me again, you lose that culture. You lose the sense of being part of a company. We knew that. So a lot of our associates, our employees, don't have even modern cell phones. They don't have smartphones. Some of them don't have computers, but they might have old style cell phones. So we, through our own technology, we have a whole technology division at Plan. We created a communication platform for us to be able to communicate with our team.
wow.
So we're able to send text message. We find that most people will communicate, especially this younger generation,
Yes.
will communicate or want to communicate via text. They may not always pay attention to an app, or they may not want to download something to their phones or go on their computer. But so we have a planned communication platform where we could text our associates, whether it's their birthday, Merry Christmas, welcome to your new job, happy to have you here at Plan. Hey, it's been 90 days with the company. Will you fill out a quick survey on how we're doing?
Wow.
Hey, we have an open shift this Saturday at 3:00. You've signed up to want more hours. Here's a communication. And for them, the platform allows them to communicate back, and it allows them to find things out that employees want. An example, a lot of folks would call because they're on direct deposit or what have you. They just want to see their paycheck stub. Through this text message program, they can hit P for paycheck, and they'll automatically get a copy of their last stub.
Wow.
They can see their
That's
W-2. So it's done two things for Plan, right? So it the most important part was it allowed us, our associates, to get what they need quickly and at their fingertips. But it also freed up some of the calls that were coming into our HR department, right? So
Right.
our HR would field all these calls. They wanted to see their pay stub or this or that, stuff that was readily accessible if they just logged in, but they wouldn't do that or necessarily have the means to do it. We just put it out there on a text for them now. So it's
Wow.
pretty interesting. So that's the internal,
cool.
very important. I start there because I think that's probably the most important.
Yes.
External communication requires you got to be a little creative in your marketing, right? So
Right.
what's going to catch someone's eye? What's going to make them, when we got together, when we connected, what does someone have to say? And being in my role, I get so many sales things in my inbox.
Mm-hmm.
So I always look at sales from a consumer side. So not only am I selling, I buy. So
Right.
I look at what do I not like? What works for me? And when you're an average Joe like I am, those are the people, those are the average Joes who I'm
Yeah.
trying to attract, right? So if I'm
Right.
trying to attract, then, maybe they're thinking like me. Maybe they're
Yeah.
like, don't send me a 20-page email to read and
Right.
say at the bottom, contact me for this service. Because I get these in the mailbox all the time. I'm like, I got to read 15 pages to find out that you clean gutters.
Right.
So you have
Yeah.
a 2-second window in sales to either capture somebody's attention Let them see something. A lot of times it's visual. And then they'll start reading maybe what you're about if you captured the 2-second thing. Then it has to be a need, or you have to create the need for them. So nobody thinks they need a Rolls Royce, but they sell.
Right.
Right? And they sell for a very high price. So Rolls Royce has to create that need or that image that people, a car is a car, some people might say. Right. Why do you need a Rolls Royce? So you have to create that need in sales. And then you got to be out there, Jeff. You know, so much, and, you know, pre-pandemic and hopefully soon again, it was where's Waldo when it came to Dino. I would be, you know, I'd have clients call me because, you know, we would snap photos, put them online. Oh, we're in Miami today. We're in Georgia tomorrow. And it's not to brag to people about where you were, but that local audience in Georgia, that local audience in Miami is like, oh, wow, they were here. You know, or I saw them at that show, and it gives them an opportunity to engage and talk about them. And it reminds them that we service that area, right? Because going back to our previous conversation, sometimes you just got to remind people, hey, by the way, service people, we're in Florida, you know, call me, you know, things like that.
Yes. That's awesome. Talk a little bit about terms of the cleaning side. What was it like during COVID and trying to, you know, sell new products? Were you guys out there pushing, or was it a lot of, hey, you know, stuff's changing so quickly, we're trying to stay on top of things?
So from a product perspective, so, you know, we are the service company. So our primary focus was good customer service, making sure that we were meeting the needs of our clients. When it came to products during COVID, you know, we had to familiarize ourselves with other things that are out there. You know, not that we didn't, electrostatic spraying was known by us. We used it but it wasn't like a everyday thing. Right. So we had to familiarize ourselves with new products. And, you know, fortunately for us, I mentioned we work with a lot of other vendors from pool suppliers who had to use certain chemicals for their pools, for the outside of their pools, to make sure they were accessible to, you know, we're partnered up with people who do gyms. So we talked to them about the chemicals that they had to use so that people can use
that's interesting.
Their gyms during this time. So I think it was just vendors helping vendors for one. Yep. And then our current suppliers saying, hey, here's what's out there in case you don't know. And then in some cases, even our clients educated us on things that were out there. So it's a true partnership. I think, you know, it speaks a lot to the culture again of Plan, that our clients cared about us as much as we cared about them. That's great. You know, they would reach out to us and say, you know, hey, is there anything you guys need from us? You know, how can we make sure your people are safe? Some of them, you know, front desk scenarios, they would put up plexiglass, just to give you an example, between residents and our front desk staff. They were as into keeping our people safe as we are. And it's because of the family culture that we have, not only with our associates, but with our clients. And I think that because of that, they want us to succeed. And because of that, we have these amazing relationships that when we do move to other markets, they want to take us with them. So it's a partnership. You know, it's one of the first things I say to people in sales about when I'm in front of a new prospect. It's not just I'm coming in, I'm talking to you today, and you're never going to see me again. I've been here 18 years. I'm going to be with you every step of the way. I'm going to make sure that everything we talk about today happens, and then you'll be able to hold me accountable if it doesn't.
Wow, that's great. What would you say the hardest part of your job is?
The hardest part of my job is, you know, in sales specifically, being held to the numbers don't lie in sales. In probably a lot of other jobs or roles or positions I've had, not just at Plan, in other places, there could have been a cause that caused an effect, right? Because of the pandemic, not able to do this. Because of this, not able to do that. in sales and where the Marine in me has to come out, no matter what, we got to make numbers happen. The company is relying on us, and maybe more than any other role. You're never going to be 100%. You're never going to keep 100% of your business. Anybody that can do that, you'd be a miracle, right? So there's going to be turnover, but the top line has to keep coming in to support every other portion of your business. So if you don't bring top line in and you lose 5%, 3% a year, your company's going to get smaller and smaller every year. And as you get bigger and bigger, you need to add on more people to be able to run this machine. You need to add new departments, and you need to spend more money and all those things. So your top line has to grow even more considerable to do that. So sales in general is a tough thing to do. But like I mentioned earlier, it's the most rewarding. So I wear that pressure like a badge of honor. Again, it might be the Marine in me. When people, pandemic, who cares? Who cares? We still have a mission. It's convincing as a leader, the people around you, your team, to have that same motivation when they turn on the TV and this city's closed down and that city's closed down and we can't go to shows anymore. How are we going to get in front of people? Well, we got to get creative, right? We got to do things. It's easy to sit back and say we can't do it. It's harder to say we're going to do it in a different way, and then create that way, and then show them how to do it, and then show the success of it. That's leading by example, not just saying, I know you guys could do this, go figure it out, good luck. Take it by the hand, take it from the beginning, show them a virtual meeting with a prospect, show them what you're able to accomplish, closing that deal, and then saying, that's how it's done, now you do it.
That's amazing. Love for you to touch on embracing social media, LinkedIn, how that's powerful, how that sort of maybe helped grow your business. Why should more people, get more involved or show videos? Do you think it proves credibility? Can you talk a little bit about kind of your experience on video and social media?
Absolutely. So I grew up in an era that there was no such thing as social media, right? So I go back, like I said earlier, I have to apply what I'm doing to something I understand. And I've taken some courses with some influencers that I think helped me dramatically understand social media better. But the best way I would describe social media is when I was a kid, we had that big box that we ran home to every day. It was called the television.
Yes.
And that's where I learned, you have to go through all these commercials, whether you like it or not, right? So to keep watching whatever show you were watching, every 10 minutes or so, it scrolled through these commercials. And everything I saw, I wanted to buy, right? And I noticed during these commercials, so if I'm watching, as a kid, cartoons, they would show toys during the commercials. So it didn't take a genius to see that they knew who their audience was, and they had a product that audience would want to buy because of what you're watching. So that was my era. Fast forward to consumers now, their TV is social media. So you got to know who you're talking to and what you want them to see that'll make them, like the kid in me. I wanted to eat Cocoa Puffs because the Flintstone commercial was just on. I wanted to get that car, that spinny car thing, because I just saw it. I drove my mother crazy, right? So everything I saw, I had to have. So I'm not saying that can happen on social media, but if I'm not on social media, then I don't have a commercial, and nobody will know we have this product today, because there's more buying, more engagement happening on social media. Then you got to measure that, right? And I think it's important to know that there should be a company image and an individual image on social media. I think that's important. What do you want your company to stand for? Because I think it's two different things. It's two different messages, right? So people are going to have their own social media brand, and that could be whatever they want. And hopefully it jives with the company brand. Hopefully there's a synergy. There should be. But I can't control 4,500 people who want to post that they were at a wedding this weekend. right? So that
Yes.
obviously has nothing to do with the company's brand. The company's brand has to be on message, and hopefully you have some people who feed into that brand, and it has to be monitored. So I think me personally, I think there's my brand, the Dino brand. Now, I like to talk to it like a realtor would, right? Like, why does a realtor put their face on the sign in front of a house? Because they want to associate that face with that realtor,
Right.
with that what they do. So I think I like to talk about leadership. I like to talk about development, which is very exciting having this conversation with you about. That could be the Dino brand. But Plan Companies doesn't sell leadership, and we don't sell training. You know, we do it. It's important, but that's
Yes.
not the plan message I want to get out there.
Got
So that separation, it helps the company, but it's not the company. So
Right.
I think that's how I see social media today. So you can't please everybody, Jeff. I know you know
Right.
this. You're going
Yes.
to put some pieces
Exactly.
out. There's always a critic.
Yes.
You know, I think
Right.
I've never seen more Monday morning quarterbacking than I have on social media,
Yeah.
right? So 20
Yeah.
people will be like, "Oh my God, that video was amazing." Even this today, right? There'll be critics, as you know, right?
Yes.
10
Yes.
people will say, "Why'd you do that? What's with the palm tree? Why were you
Yeah,
outside?" Like,
Yeah.
we're never going to please everybody. Right? At
Right.
the end of the day,
Right.
you try to mix it up and you try to please a lot of people a lot of the time,
Right.
but always being professional. I think the image, no matter what you do, your professionalism is with you forever. You know, that's where that leadership, that's where, you know, that discipline that I talked about in the Marines you're always on. You're always on stage. You can't take back and say, "Well, I wasn't the CRO of Planned when I knocked over that table in that lamp." Yeah, you
Yeah.
were. Yeah, you were. You know, or I wasn't a Marine that day. I took a day
Yeah.
off. You're always that. So that professionalism has to stick with you.
And how about in terms of conversations with the executive team? Do you guys do a lot of long-term growth strategies? Obviously, it could be different for how your conversations go versus, you know, dealing with the rest of your staff. Do you guys talk more at a high level and where you and Robert and the rest of the team see the company going?
100%. We meet monthly at least. That's a minimum. And I think that's important that you have that set day and time. As leaders, we're focusing on our individual areas, you know, which is smart to do. We kind of go out, bring information back into the other leaders of what we're doing. But we all have a mission. We all have a role in the company. So having that set time where we all get together and talk about either creative ideas, struggles, things that we see. We just had ours yesterday, which is why this is so fresh on our mind. We have a monthly executive leadership team meeting. And so it's, you know, everyone has their place at the table. It's virtual now. But we all talk about, hey, here's what's happening. And then we ask each other for help. And it's great. You know, I'm glad you brought this up, Jeff, because for many years, we had planned, there were three people consisted of the leadership team. It was Astrid Garana, who's our COO today, Rob, who's our CEO, and myself. And that was the whole team. And we were divided up differently. It was by company. So Astrid had the janitorial maintenance division. I had security and lifestyle. And then Rob, as the CEO, of course, covered it all. We didn't focus on functions. We focused on companies.
Oh.
4 years ago, when I switched roles, it was our CRO, our CEO rather, who said, you know, let's focus on what our strengths are. And it works. And, you know, when you wake up every day to do what your strength is versus I'm going to do everything for this vertical. I'm going to sell for it. I'm going to support for it. I'm going to do the payroll. We realized we had to find other folks, which we have, chief revenue officer, someone who's an HR professional, IT professional sits at the table. You know, if just the three of us kept doing what we were doing, trying to grow this brand, we would have been missing out on so many other people's expertise to be able to take this to another level. But first, we had to get real with what each other's expertises were. Right? That's a tough come to Jesus, Jeff. When you are doing everything for a brand, and now you're being asked to just do this one thing, it's tough. That's a tough transition. But once you make it, you see why. You see how successful and how smart it was. Then you love it even more. And you can always go back and help with the other stuff, right? No one's going to say, oh, no, don't help. Everyone's ready for extra help if you want to do that, for sure.
So whether getting back to your team of 10 or a team of 5,000, that team, getting executive, getting even your top couple people together, that communication on a consistent basis, what you're saying seems like it'll make companies more successful when they talk growth and strategy as a team and, meet together. Because I think a lot of smaller to medium-sized companies don't spend enough time on growth, marketing, team building, looking at long-term future growth. They're so concerned about the day-to-day. They're in the weeds and dealing with the fires that they're not as much focused on the big picture.
Yeah, Jeff, and what we found with companies like that who don't think big pictures, they don't stick around very long. Because at the end of the day, and we say our product is our people. I don't make a widget. It would be so much easier if the widget's broke, you just replace it. If our product, our people, is broke, there goes our reputation. There goes anything I could do on social media, anything I can talk about won't matter. Because if at the end of the day, the experience with our people don't match what I'm talking about, it's all a bust. So, yeah, we do a lot of culture things and bringing people together. Quarterly town halls where our CEO, where every department head actually talks to anybody who wants to join. We do it on phone, virtually. We used to do them in person. Hopefully we'll get back to that again.
Yes.
In a few weeks, we're going to have a little get together now. I'm going to fly up to Jersey with the people who are close to our headquarters. We're going to do a little happy hour thing outdoors, so as many are comfortable. But you got to do that. You got to keep people engaged. And I use, again, myself, right? So when I joined the Marines, it wasn't because I thought I was going to get rich. There was a culture that I wanted to be a part of. There was a purpose. There was something bigger than me and way bigger than a paycheck that made me want to join the Marine Corps. And I think that there's a bunch of folks, and we capture a lot of them, that are feeling the same way about being a part of something. Now, of course, you want to get paid and you want to evolve and move up the ladder and all that. But I think when people start here and when they're on the ground levels and what they feel is that they're part of something big and they feel like they make a difference. And I relate it back to the best way I can relate it back to is my Marine days. No one said, hey, join the Marines and you'll be rich. Join,
Right.
And no one said it's going to be easy. It's an easy job. So people ask why. What type of person does it take to even want to join the Marines? Like, why would somebody want to do that? You could have went and worked at a restaurant or whatever, been a lifeguard. No, I wanted to be a Marine, and I think that's the culture. That's the type of people we have, and we're lucky to have here.
That's amazing. Well, could you let the audience know if you want people to reach out to you, how they can get in touch with you?
I would love for people to reach out to me and my team. The best way to do it, go to our website, www.plannedcompanies.com. You'll see under our leadership team, you'll see myself, you'll see our CEO. All of the people I lead in our sales team, there's a sales button. So depending on where you're trying to find us, what part of the country, obviously I handle all of it. But then in my groups, we separate it by regions and territories. You'll find that there. You also will find a ton of resources. We videotaped all of our webinars, all of those weekly town halls I talked about, Jeff. We saved them all we have a COVID page on our website. People can go back and watch those for information. And in my webinars, I did an active shooter presentation that I'm very proud of with another police officer. We did a civil unrest with the chief of police in New Jersey, myself and I. all relevant topics. They're all recorded.
Sure.
They're all out there. So not just to find me or plan, but
Yes.
information. I
Yes.
think, again, a wealth of information
Yes.
you can find.
Awesome. Well, again, Dino, I appreciate you coming on the show. I love speaking with you, and thanks for sharing your thoughts and more information about Plan Companies. So again, check Dino out and Plan Companies, and look forward to our conversations again in the future. Thanks again.
Thanks, Jeff, and thank you for what you're doing in the industry. Appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks.